Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to the Stewards Room, where we'll be taking a look at racing incidents submitted by you guys and trying to make a determination on who, if anyone, was at fault. There's a link in the description to submit your own clips, and feel free to check out the playlist link for more of these videos, specifically the first, which acts as a scene setter. Also, keep an eye out for cards popping up on screen towards the end of each segment where you can vote on who you thought was at fault for each incident. So obviously the first thing that we're going to be looking at in this video is this incident between Vettel and Hamilton at the Canadian Grand Prix this year. And Vettel obviously got a 5-second penalty for this we'll explain what it was all about and the reasons for it. But I want to do things a little bit differently this week and get your guys' opinions straight away. So there will be a poll popping up in the top right. Do you think that the 5-second penalty that Vettel got for what you're seeing on the screen now was a fair penalty? Was it a reasonable penalty? Or was it an unfair penalty? And I want to get your guys' opinions at various stages throughout the analysis of this incident, and see if things change as we go through. So yeah, obviously these polls always pop up there to vote on, when we're going through this series on all the clips that we do, and you can give me your thoughts on all of the clips. That's something that we do every week, but obviously you can only see those cards popping up in the top right hand corner of the screen if you're on a desktop or mobile device. I don't think they work on TVs or consoles, just to keep an eye out for that. So, should have done your first vote now, and we can have a look at why Vettel got a penalty for that according to the race stewards. So, the stewards, having received a report from the race director, have considered the following matter and determined the following. That, fact, car number 5 left the track, rejoined unsafely and forced another car off the track. The offence was involved in an incident as defined by Article 38.1 of the footballing regulations. The decision was a 5-second time penalty and 2 points awarded to the licence. The reason: the stewards reviewed the video evidence and determined that car 5 left the track at turn 3, rejoined the track at turn 4 in an unsafe manner, and forced car 44 off track. Car 44 had to take evasive action to avoid a collision. So before we get into the meat of the analysis, I just want to cover a few things. And first one is that you don't punish mistakes when it comes to stewarding decisions. Now, drivers don't want to make mistakes, obviously, because they come with their own penalties of losing time or things like that. So stewards shouldn't really be adding to that. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake, and that is your own time lost from making that mistake. As an example of that, if someone makes a small mistake coming out on the exit of a corner, for example, or misses a gear on a straight, and the driver behind is slowed down by that, then they wouldn't get a penalty for that. That's just something that happens in racing. It's just one of those things. Drivers make mistakes all the time, and they're not perfect human beings. So you don't give penalties for someone just making a mistake in racing. The second thing that I want to say is that you don't also punish for things that someone can't do anything about. So if someone has no control over their car, and the result is a crash, would they get a penalty for that? And the answer is no, they wouldn't, because they have no control over their car. If someone is completely unable to decide the outcome of a situation because they're not in control of their car, then you can't penalise someone for that. By definition, someone has no control over what happened, so it's not their fault that happened, because they couldn't control anything that went on. So incidents that occur as a result of a car being out of control are just, again, a racing incident. So you don't give a penalty for someone making a mistake, and you don't give a penalty if someone is out of control. Therefore, if someone makes a mistake and becomes out of control from that mistake, you also don't give a penalty. No driver is actively seeking to lose control of their car. They're not trying to be out of control. And in a situation where a driver is a passenger and has lost control of the car, you can't assume that was an intentional thing from the driver to do. It was just, it's one of those things. Drivers lock up all the time, they run wide all the time, even at the highest level in Formula 1. It's just a racing incident, it's just one of those things that happen in racing. So that leads us to the key point of this incident, and that is Vettel makes a small mistake and he runs wide onto the next corner. So you can't penalise him for making that mistake. The main question of this is, after he made that mistake, could he have done anything to avoid placing the car where he did? That's the main point of contention in this. It's impossible to penalise the initial mistake, and it's impossible to penalise to a certain degree what happens after that, because he's out of control being on the grass from that mistake. You can't penalise that. The question is, could he have done anything differently once he regained control of the car? Now, obviously the stewards thought so, but I'm interested in what you guys think. So again, there's going to be another poll at this point before I give my thoughts on it. Vote on still whether you thought that, with that in mind, with what I've just said in mind, was the penalty a fair penalty for Vettel, or was it not a fair penalty? See if things change from that point. So let's get into my thoughts on it, and I guess I kind of echo what a lot of ex-racers are saying, and what a lot of people are saying in general, that it's kind of a harsh penalty to give, and I'm going to go into why that is, and we're going to look at it and analyse it in detail. So obviously coming into the corner here, what we can see is that basically the car just doesn't want to stick into the corner, and at this point he loses the back end. The back end has lost grip, and that's why he's steering to the left to try and correct it. But obviously that then means that he can't make the corner perfectly, so it sends him across the grass. Now, going across the grass means that your tyres, have grass on them, so you've lost a lot of grip when you come back onto the track. And obviously, as you can see, he turns to the right to try and, get the car back under control. At this point, he has no control over the car. He's fighting the car to stop it from basically going into the wall. So then he goes over, he's turning to the left, so he gets a little bit of an oversteer moment there as well. And then continues along, looks in his mirror, kind of at the end of that, just to see where Hamilton was, and that was pretty much the entire thing. Now obviously I have to show this at slow speed because of copyright issues and all that kind of stuff, but if we just put it to full speed one time so you can see how quickly all this happens, it's we got to keep in mind that we're trying to analyze something that happens in over the course of maybe a 3 or 4 second period. So the key point of contention with this, and the main part that is, as I've explained, you don't penalise mistakes and you don't penalise people being out of control and what happens for that. So the main point of contention is, could Vettel have done more to avoid, could he have left more space for Hamilton on the outside? Now, I don't think so. I personally feel that the things that Vettel has done in that car in those few seconds to try and regain control of the car are exactly the same as what he would have done regardless of who was around him. So you can see there as he exits and gets off the grass, you'll see a bit of an oversteer moment from Vettel. Loses a bit of grip, and that sends him back over to the right. That's not his fault, his tyres have no grip from the grass. So he loses a bit of grip, and that sends him more to the right, which then means he has to try and overcorrect for that. So this is the point of contention right here. Is there anything Vettel... Did Vettel... The question is, did Vettel intentionally continue moving over to the right to block Hamilton getting across? And ultimately, I don't think so. I don't think that anything that Vettel does in this situation is any different than what he would have done if Hamilton hadn't have been there. All he was trying to do was regain control of the car going at 100 miles per hour across grass where he's lost grip, and it's ridiculous to penalise someone for that. And especially taking into account a pretty important part of it is that nothing happened in this. There wasn't a crash. Nobody was, nobody got any damage from this. Both of them managed to carry on as they were before this happened. If this isn't a slam dunk racing incident, just forget about it and move on, then I don't know what is. Giving a penalty for something like this, to me, is crazy, and it's to the point of sort of over judging everything. And what is Vettel meant to do in that situation? He's trying to regain control of his car. He doesn't know where anybody is. He's just trying to stop his car getting put into the wall. And also the point has to be made that the stewards said that Hamilton was forced off the track. And I guess you could make the argument that the white lines are technically the defining point of the track and he's off it. But, in Canada, they go on this part of the track all the time. So was there any point really where Hamilton was, if he'd been forced off the track, really that would have meant that he was put in the wall. And at no point was he put in the wall. And even at, when Vettel was at his most at the right hand side as much as he ever is at this part, there's still a car's width, I would say. It's very minute between that, but I very much doubt that if Hamilton had kept his foot in and not backed out of it, I very much doubt that he would have been completely put in the wall. That's as far as Vettel goes to the right. There was still space for Hamilton to be there. There might have been a little bit of bumping of wheels or something, but there certainly wouldn't have been a crash, and Hamilton might have been able to, get the move done. But obviously he chose to back out of it, which is fair enough. He's within his rights to do that. But to give then Vettel a penalty for simply making a mistake that, mistakes happen all the time in racing, as I said, and sometimes the guy behind will benefit from that mistake, sometimes he won't. But to then double down on that mistake by giving someone a penalty is kind of crazy. That there's comparisons being made to various different situations in other races in the past, and I'm not going to be doing that because every situation is different. But one of the main points of what the stewards were looking at also was that Vettel was supposedly looking in his mirror when he closed out Hamilton. He got to the point that I think that they were making, the stewards, when they made the decision, was that Vettel got to a point where he was back in control of the car and looked in his mirrors, saw that Hamilton was there, and at this point, obviously he's moving to the left there, right and left, to try and regain control of the car. Then at this point, they're saying that he has control of the car, and then at this point he has control of the car, but he doesn't keep moving to the left to make sure there's space there. Obviously, you can see Vettel's head slightly looking over to the right to look in his mirror. So this is the point that he has control of the car. And let's put it back to full speed, because this is the amount of time that the stewards deem it that he was able to make a decision to purposefully block Hamilton. There. That was the amount of time that the stewards believed that Vettel had enough time to make a conscious decision to not drive more to the left, because he had control of the car at that point. So, I personally think that this is a totally bogus penalty. It's a very contentious one, and I probably would have thought differently before the start of this series. But as this series has gone on, I've learned more. I've read more about it. I've talked to people about it. It's been a learning experience for me going through this series, and you can't penalize someone for making a mistake. The penalty is the mistake, what they've, the time that they lose from a mistake. You can't penalize someone for being out of control because they have no say in what the car does once that car is out of control. And sometimes the driver behind will benefit from it, sometimes he won't, but to then double down and give a penalty for it is crazy. So that's my thoughts. You guys obviously let me know now, again, for the final time. In the top right of the screen, a card will pop up. You can let me know what you think. Have I changed your mind? Has your mind changed the other way? Vote on the poll in the top right, and we'll see whether things have changed in the 3 polls that we've had. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And I wanted to go a bit more in depth on this one. That's why we've only got 2 clips to look at after this, in the normal fashion that we do. But also let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments on this as well. What do you think, it was a fair penalty or not? And yeah, feel free to let it all out in the comments, and we'll see what you guys have to say. Alright, so next clip, and back to normal service being resumed, I guess you could say. It's a little bit laggy in places, this clip, but essentially it's another question of an unsafe re-entry. just like we've seen from the Vettel situation. And let me know also, by the way, in the comments whether you prefer having the polls before I give any decisions. You know, if I just show the clip of the video and then put up a poll on the screen so you guys can vote on who you thought was at fault, like we normally do, but I do it before I give my impressions, and then we see how that matches up. If you'd prefer it that way, I can't do it both ways, one poll before and one after, but yeah, let me know in the comments for that as well. But yeah, let's have a look at our second clip. So we've got the car on the outside. We'll call that the black and white car. This the black and gold. Maybe we'll just go white and gold since they're both black. But we got white on the outside. It's more grey, isn't it? All right, I'm saying grey. Grey on the outside is off the track. So he's gone wide and he's coming back onto the track as gold is, you know, coming across to take his racing line. And the question, obviously, when this was submitted was this an unsafe re-entry? And again, I don't think I could give a penalty for something like this. I mean, especially, obviously, nothing happened with it. You know, the gold car gets a slide on, but skillfully manages to save the car. So it, you know, impressively done to save that. But I don't think you can realistically give a penalty for that. You know, it's yes, the grey car has gone a bit wide, but you know, when you look at the angle that both of these cars are on, what is the grey car expected to do in this situation? Continue going along the grass all the way down until he's sure? Because I mean, once you're on the grass, you have much higher chance of becoming an out of control car and not being able to get it back on the track at all, or spinning around and completely spearing into someone instead of being able to get back on the track as safely as you can. So I wouldn't necessarily call this a dangerous re-entry, because he doesn't sort of veer completely over to the right. He gradually makes it over to the right, and we can see that the gold car is coming to the left as the grey car is coming to the right. So it's more just a case of both of them meeting at the same point, because they're both traveling towards each other rather than one person. You know, I think at this point the gold car can see what's happening. You know, the gold car can see that the grey car has come back onto the track, yet he doesn't deviate his line in any way to avoid him. And you know, I think at that point the gold car, it's on the gold car to, you know, all he has to do is go this way a little bit before he then turns that way to take the racing line, but he just continues to go that way, and that's what causes that little clash, that little clip. You could make an argument that the grey car should have stayed more to the left, so I can certainly see that if you want to take that line on it. But you know, again, it's about, are we going to penalise someone for making a mistake? And I don't think that you could really call that an unsafe re-entry. He just went a little bit wide and came back as best he could. And I think it's on both of them at that point to try and, you know, make sure that they get through that fine. It's not only on the grey car, it's on the gold car, who can actually see what's happening, as we see from the onboard. You know, the gold car is the one that can see everything. Obviously, he's made his mistake. He's busy trying to keep control of the car on a low grip surface. The gold car should be leaving a little bit more margin for error there, I would say. And obviously nothing happened, so again, just a racing incident. That's what I would be saying. The poll will pop up in the top right. You can vote. Do you think it was the gold car's fault? Would you give a penalty for the gold car? Would you give a penalty for the grey car for an unsafe re-entry? Or was it just a racing incident? Because essentially, in the end, nothing happened. And that is drawing some parallels with the previous clip. You know, nothing happened. Nobody crashed. Nobody had any incidents. Everyone continued on as they were. As they were. So yeah, obviously let me know your thoughts about in the poll about this second clip, and in the comments below as well. It'll be interesting to see what your guys' take on this. But yeah, all about unsafe re-entries this week, it seems. Having said that, our final clip isn't about an unsafe re-entry, and it's certainly some more deliberate movements. And this is the sort of thing that you can penalise. You shouldn't be penalising someone, as I've said, for making a mistake or the consequences of something that happens through a car being out of control, because by definition, the driver has no control over that. You should be penalising deliberate movements and conscious, deliberate decisions that are against the rules. Now, this, to me, is one of those decisions. We'll take a look at the rules of racing document that we always do when it comes to clips like this. But as we can see, the black car goes for a move up the inside, and is that another gold car? We'll say gold again, another gold car. It looks like he just turns in regardless of whether the black car is there. So the question is, did the black car have a right to be there, and should the gold car have left more room? So here we are back again with the rules of racing document, and we're going to be looking at, as is most of the issues here, disputes over the apex. If the attacker is more than halfway alongside, then any collision is the fault of the defender. If the attacker is less than halfway alongside, then any collision is the fault of the attacker. And if the attacker is approximately halfway alongside at the apex of the corner, then both drivers should share the blame. Now, as we look at this clip, which has been helpfully slowed down here, at this point, I think, as we're coming to the apex of the corner, that's about halfway alongside. So you could say that they should share the blame for this incident. But if we're looking at it from the perspective of the gold car, he basically just turns in without any thought. When we're talking about stewards' decisions and trying to give a penalty for something, it has to be a conscious decision that a driver is making, a deliberate movement that has caused an incident. And for me, that's what the gold car does. He knows that the black car is there at this point. It doesn't matter what what view you're on. You know that a car is to your left at this point. Yet he doesn't do anything to avoid any kind of contact by maybe going a little bit wide and leaving a little bit of space. And if he had braked a little bit deeper and the black car had still hit him, he probably would have hit his back end, and then it would have been the fault of the black car for kind of going hitting the car at the wrong place and trying too hard for the corner. But at this point, the gold car just continues to turn in. He's taking the line for the corner as if the car, that there's no car there, and you can't just do that. You can't just, again, he's enough alongside the black car, is enough alongside the gold to be warranting of some space. He's done enough to not be deserving of the gold car just cutting off his front end. And that's a conscious, deliberate decision for the gold car to turn into the corner. You could say that it was unintentional because he didn't see the black car, but he should be seeing the black car in that kind of situation. That's not a valid excuse. And yeah, for me, I would totally put this to the gold car for just basically turning in anyway. He just turned in without any thought or care or consequence of what would happen. The black car was there. The black car had done enough to be warranting of the space on the inside of the track, and the gold car didn't want to lose the lead. It looks even worse from this perspective because the black car is almost fully alongside on the entryway to the corner. There's no way that the gold car doesn't know he's alongside, especially around say this point. There's no way he doesn't know he's there, and he just turns in anyway. He makes a conscious decision to turn in anyway, and he is the reason that they have a coming together. That when you're thinking about the cause of a collision, it's the gold car that caused that collision because he turned in anyway. So that's my thoughts. You feel free to let me know your thoughts, as you always do, in the comments down below on this clip and all the clips that we've seen tonight. There will be a poll in the top right, as there always is for this final clip. And again, let me know, was the gold car at fault, was the black car at fault, or was it just a racing incident? You guys let me know. And again, would you prefer to see the polls before I give my analysis? Let me know about that as well. So that's pretty much it for this episode. You can find in the video description all the info and links that you may need to submit your own clips, and if you'd like to support me you can do so on Patreon by becoming a YouTube member or simply subscribing and liking the video. Thank you all so much for watching, I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.